Well, listening to that is Eylon Levy, former government spokesman for Israel. Morning to you. Even friends of Israel are asking the question, what is the war aim? Or to put it in the words of the Foreign Secretary, what possible military justification can there be for killing desperate, starving children?
Oh, first of all, it would be remiss of me not to mention that we had an attempted ballistic missile attack on Tel Aviv this morning. Just shy of 6 a.m. in the morning, millions of people ran to bomb shelters as Iran's proxy army in Yemen fired a missile at Israel. It was intercepted, thankfully, but that's top of the agenda for everyone here in Israel today.
And that's an important fact. Of course it is. It's deeply distressing, as is still the holding of hostages. But a narrower question is being asked. What is the military point, the justification for killing desperate, starving children?
The military goals of the war are the same as they were after Hamas declared this war, namely to dismantle Hamas's governing capabilities, to dismantle its military, to bring back all the hostages, and to make sure that Gaza can never pose a threat to Israel ever again like it did on October 7th.
Yeah, but it isn't as simple as that, Mr. Levy, is it? Because sometimes government ministers in Israel talk about returning the hostages, both the bodies and, of course, those who are surviving. Sometimes they talk about destroying Hamas. They can't destroy Hamas and make a deal with them at the same time. And sometimes we hear suggestion from ministers, including the Defence Minister Israel Katz, of relocating the entire population to one place and then inviting people to leave the Strip altogether. These are different aims.
And the perception is indeed that Israel's war goals have come apart, that bringing the hostages back is in tension with taking Hamas out of power, and taking Hamas out of power is in conflict with bringing the hostages back. Now, what the Israeli government wants is to try to achieve both somehow and to square that circle. Well, that's why it's pushing for a ceasefire now, and the delegation is still in Doha trying to get a ceasefire with Hamas, which continues to refuse the American and Qatari proposal on the table. But what Israel hopes, what Prime Minister Netanyahu hopes, is that we can get a 60-day ceasefire that will get half of the living hostages out, and that will create space for diplomacy on a permanent settlement for Gaza, in which Hamas will agree to relinquish power, because the Arab neighbors have to come to Hamas and say, it's game over. You cannot go back to governing Gaza. We're not putting a penny into reconstruction if it's going back into your tunnels and back into your missiles.
Understood that it takes two sides to make peace, and you've made that point. But what in the meantime is your answer to, and I'm sorry to put it for a third time, but it is the question the Foreign Secretary is asking here. You used to study here in the UK, you know the country well. What possible military justification can there be for strikes that have killed desperate, starving children? What's the answer to that, which doesn't involve attacks on Hamas or talking about the future plans? Or what's the answer on behalf of Israel to that question?
So perhaps I should state the obvious. Israel directs its targets against military targets. This is a war against Hamas and not the people of Gaza.
What, now, children queuing to get food at depots set up by Israel, having closed the international ones?
If you're referring to a particular incident last week, I recall the IDF said that that was a tragic mistake in which an ammunition misfired. Of course,
I'm referring to incidents every single day. People queue to get food at depots set up by Israel, and they get killed by Israel.
And it is important that we reach a ceasefire, because the war that Hamas declared has been going on for far too long.
You could just stop killing the civilians queuing for food, Mr. Levy. Just stop doing it.
The problem Israel faces in Gaza is that Hamas's enemy forces are hiding inside and under civilians, fighting from inside civilian infrastructure. That is the reason that we have seen such tragic deaths of civilians. And that is why it is important.
Well, up to a point, Mr. Levy, you know that the aid system was remade in order to relocate civilians. It was not simply because Hamas was hiding amongst them. The IDF wanted to move civilians from where they were living, often to clear the surroundings. We haven't got much time left, so I'll just put a more general question and give you the chance to answer. You see, what does Israel want Palestinian civilians to do? The state tells them to move home and then attacks the places they move to. Israel tells them to get food from new Israeli depots and then shoots those queuing to get food. What is your message for peace-loving, law-abiding, Hamas-hating Palestinians? Because at the moment the message seems to be, move home and we'll kill you, queue for food and we'll kill you. It's not good enough, is it?
Well, it's absolutely horrific that civilians are caught in the crossfire of a war, and that's why it's important that the war end. What Israel wants from the government of Gaza is to accept a ceasefire that will open a pathway to bringing back all of the hostages and letting Hamas relinquish power. And the statement we saw from the Foreign Secretary and other countries today was a profoundly misguided intervention that is only going to prolong this war. That is why Hamas has welcomed it. It is encouraging Hamas to dig in its heels, refuse to show any wiggle room in the negotiations, and accept a ceasefire. Because the world is telling Israel, if Hamas doesn't accept a ceasefire, you're going to pay the price. We need to have a ceasefire now, and the path to that is by pressuring Hamas, the party that is refusing a ceasefire and is insisting on continuing to fight this pointless war.
Eylon Levy, we will make that point to the Foreign Secretary at 8:10, I've no doubt.